First off, we're learning product rule. To find the derivative of f of x times g of x, you have to do 1 prime 2 plus 2 prime 1. First example is f of x equals x to 6 times x squared, and then you do 1 prime 2 plus 2 prime 1, and then you simplify, and there's your derivative.
Next, we're going to do quotient rule. We're going to take the derivative of f of x over g of x, which is low d high minus high d low over low low. So here's an example of the quotient rule. So we're going to take the derivative of f of x, which is 1 plus 2x over 3 minus 4x. Right. So by taking the derivative, we have to take low d high minus high d low over low low. And there's your quotient rule.
Our next rule is chain rule. Our equation is y equals f of x squared, and to derive, you have to move the exponent to the front and multiply by derivative inside. F of x equals 6x minus 4 to the power of 2. Using chain rule, you bring the exponent to the front and subtract it by 1, and then multiply the equation by the derivative of the inside function.
Here's the second example for chain rule. It's 4x plus 2 to the power of 2 million. To find the derivative, you take 2 million, you put it in the front, then you subtract 1, and then you find the derivative of the inside, and then you simplify for the answer, which is that.
Next, we are doing trig functions. An easy way to remember trig functions is sine, cosine, negative sine, and negative cosine. The arrows indicate the derivative of the function above.
Our first function for trig derivatives is f of x equals 6x times cosine x, and to find the derivative, you use product rule, which is 1 prime 2 plus 2 prime 1, and the sine cosine chart.
Taking derivatives of trig functions other than sine and cosine, you write this chart: secant x, tangent x, cosecant x, negative cosecant x, and cotangent x. The derivative of tangent x is secant squared x, and the derivative of secant x is secant x times tangent x. The derivative of cotangent x is negative cosecant squared, and the derivative of cosecant x is negative cosecant times cotangent x. Our next example is f of x equals secant x times tangent x. To find the derivative, you have to use product rule and the trig chart that we showed you. Our next problem is f of x equals 2 times 1 minus cosine x, everything over 3 sine x. Afterwards, you have to distribute the 2 to 1 minus cosine x. To derive the function, you have to use the trig chart and quotient rule, which is low d high minus high d low, everything over low low. And afterwards, you have to simplify everything unless it's free response.
Our next problem is a mix of product rule and chain rule. Our function is f of x equals x to the third times 2x minus 7 to the third. To find the derivative, we do 1 prime 2, and this is where you do the chain rule, plus 2 prime 1.